welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie, figure out what other movies inspired it. And today on the show, we're doing kind of a special episode in a way. This is actually a crossover with my other podcast, Bird Road. You will get into that in a minute. Before we do, just want to remind you all, if you haven't yet subscribed to Piecing It Together, you can do that on pretty much any podcast app out there. You could also rate and review us on iTunes, which would be greatly appreciated. And you can follow us on social media at PiecingPod. And, while I'm at it, you should also follow Bird Road and subscribe to Bird Road. You can find Bird Road at Bird Road Podcast, or just find Bird Road on any podcast app. So with that said, we're going to kind of just get right into it today. We got a really great conversation with me and returning co-host David Quinones from the Bird Road podcast, my best buddy. And we're going to be talking about Sorry to Bother You, which is a movie that's already a little over a month old already. And normally we try to stick to newer releases. But this is a movie that I really wanted to cover on the show. It's actually a movie that when I first came up with Piecing It Together, I had it written down on my to-do list. Do Sorry to Bother You when it comes out with Q. And so, we finally got to it. So you still have a chance to see it, too, because I think it's still in a few theaters out there. So make sure to go check it out. But Sorry to Bother You is a movie written and directed by Boots Riley. You know what? I'm not going to go into my usual pre-show synopsis because actually once we get into the conversation, you'll hear that Q does a really good synopsis of it because, as I said, this is a crossover with Bird Road. The full conversation was also posted as part of the Bird Road episode. So in the process, he did a really good synopsis. There's no reason to cut that out and go over it. Let's just let him do it. How about that? So let's jump into this conversation I had with Q about Sorry to Bother You.
And that's why we're having it on Bird Road, because if you are a listener of Piecing It Together and you don't know what Bird Road is the other show that Jewish Dave, aka you know him as David Rosen, I suppose, that we have on our podcast network. This is a politics show. I mean, it started as like sort of a general interest news commentary show, but I mean, it has veered pretty hard into politics arena, the political arena, and we're not like we're steering into that skid. We're not afraid of that, and we want to do that. This movie was overtly political in a lot of great ways. It was probably one of the best progressive manifestos that's been put out there, or at least with respect to the portrayal of the worker or the solidarity amongst workers. Very class conscious, very knowledgeable of very, like, it's timely. It's what I'm trying to say, I guess. It's timely.
Sure.
So if you haven't heard of the movie, it's starring Lakeith Stanfield, who you probably have seen on the TV show Atlanta. He also had the titular line in 2017's Get Out. He's just one of these guys that's kind of popping up a lot more, and who you're going to see a lot of in the future. And the movie is synopsized thusly. In an alternate reality of present-day Oakland, California, telemarketer Cassius Green finds himself in a macabre universe after he discovers a magical key that leads to material glory. As Green's career begins to take off, his friends and co-workers organize a protest against corporate oppression. Cassius soon falls under the spell of Steve Lift, a cocaine-snorting CEO who offers him a salary beyond his wildest dreams. And the best part of the movie, actually, Armie Hammer playing Steve Lift is one of a treasure for this year's cinema-going crowd. All right, Dave. So how do we start this? Right, we're going to break this movie apart and get into what it is, what it's about, and I guess we want to get into the elements of it. Right, this is a very elemental podcast.
Sure.
What is? Why don't you start us off as the first puzzle piece that you saw in Sorry to Bother You?
Sure. Well, as far as this movie is concerned, I think. And actually, that's interesting that you're having me start, because normally I have the guest start. But you know what? This is a crossover episode. Why not? It's
a funhouse mirror, man.
Yeah,
it's a funhouse mirror.
Yeah, anything could happen on this episode. And I just wanted to also point out before we really get started that I did see this movie opening weekend, so it has been a little while since I've seen it. So a few of the specific scenes and things might be a little rusty for me, but overall I have, my ideas of what I liked and didn't like about the movie. But going into my first puzzle piece, and this one is a pretty obvious one, especially for me. My favorite writer in the world is Charlie Kaufman, and I think it's pretty obvious that Boots Riley loves Charlie Kaufman's work as well. There are a lot of directors who have worked with Charlie Kaufman. Well, not a lot, but a few directors that have worked with him in the past. Examples are, of course, Michel Gondry, Spike Jonze, and then Charlie himself. And I think all three of these we could kind of bucket together as one big puzzle piece, which is these kind of mind-bending films that are open to so much interpretation and have so many layers upon layers. They're visually inventive, especially Michel Gondry's versions of Charlie Kaufman's scripts. And, one thing, as we'll get through this episode, you'll notice is that I didn't love the movie. I did like it, and I definitely respect it a lot. But because it does a lot of really interesting things, and it's certainly trying to be something unique and different, which I absolutely appreciate. But one thing about these kinds of movies, these movies that the general public would just straight up call weird, is one thing that's exciting about them is that they're trying things that don't always necessarily work, but it's exciting that they're trying them and they're actually doing unique and interesting things. And I'm sure you probably agree with me, especially I know you're a big Michel Gondry fan.
Yeah, I'm a big Michel Gondry fan. I even like the stuff that most people don't like. I thought that Green Hornet was great.
Oh yeah, me too.
I love the practical effects and the world building that happens in Michel Gondry films. I love the visual styles of them. I mean, they're good. They're good movies. We were both really young when Eternal Sunshine came out. That's my wife's favorite movie, and
it is one of probably my top 3 favorite movies of all time. I mean, it's such an amazing movie.
I heard actually a podcast interview with Boots Riley, and it's funny that you bring up Charlie Kaufman as your first puzzle piece, because he did say that Charlie Kaufman was one. Understand, Boots Riley has a long history of being a sort of a creative force on the West Coast.
Yeah,
as a rapper, he was involved in the entire hip hop industry out there, and he's like a favorite son of Oakland, California, and so he had doors open to him during the process of I guess conceiving this movie, and one of the people among many people who he did have conversations with about it was Charlie Kaufman.
Oh, that's
they actually
cool.
did talk about this movie, and the script was floating around, and the story that I recall, and I'm only bringing this up because you mentioned Charlie Kaufman, and the story that I recall is that Boots Riley said that the script was very raw because he wasn't a screenwriter per se, and it made its way around by virtue of sort of the hipness that's attached to his name.
Sure.
People were like, "Oh, that guy wrote a movie script. I want to read it." And through this iterative process of meeting a lot of really talented people like Charlie Kaufman and the Coen brothers, and a lot of people that he sort of bounced up against that had feedback and said, "Hey, I really hope you can get this made. Maybe you should try this. Maybe you should try that." And so what we saw on the screen was I believe like a first-time screenwriter who got a lot of incredible feedback and information on what had been a very raw script, and no doubt it came through in the finished product.
Yeah. Well, an interesting little side note about what you were just talking about is the fact that this script was written I think 10 years ago or something. And it was funny, just like a week or two ago, someone on Twitter posted something about how Sorry to Bother You is such an amazing, they said something about how we all thought amazing art would come out of the Donald Trump presidency because of the fighting back and everything. And Boots Riley replied, "Man, this was written 10 years ago." Nothing's changed,
No, and that's true, because we might as well get it out there right now as we explain that this movie this movie's all about the cause of solidarity and labor, fighting against to be one of the masses kind of fighting against the grip of capitalism. And
Yes.
that's what the movie's really about. It's about sort of people banding together. It actually touches on a lot of issues. This movie would be different if it was written right now, because it would be about different things. It would, like, the race angle would be different. If this movie had been written today, there would be 1,000 different storylines that they would change about it. This was, funny enough, if he wrote this 10 years ago, what he was writing about was a time during the first, during the Obama campaign, when I think a lot of people will remember that Barack Obama, the candidate, made a lot of promises to organize labor. And they were promises that he didn't keep. He promised to advocate for card check. He promised to advocate for better collective bargaining rights. None of that happened. It went not only did it not happen, it wasn't even on the agenda for the first term. And by the time the second term came around, they were so entrenched in the other fights, like with healthcare and with all these sort of mini scandals that had arisen around the IRS and Fast and Furious and all this bullshit, that nobody was talking about that stuff. Frankly, nobody's talking about it today except for, why is it so fucking prescient? Why is it so smart? Because this movie comes out just a few months after a string of wildcat strikes that hit West Virginia, Kansas, other sort of traditionally Republican states. And I think that's incredible. Like, a script from 10 years ago that basically stayed true to what it was, didn't change the plot, ended up being so relevant today. But I think that's a really myopic and stupid thing for somebody to say, to be like, oh, well, no kidding that this kind of great art is coming out of the Trump era.
Yeah.
Like, no, dude, this isn't a Trump response. This isn't about that. This is like, the characters in it aren't those flavors of conservative, progressive, it's not what, it doesn't comport to that explanation.
Sure. Absolutely. So what would your first puzzle piece be?
So my first puzzle piece would actually be a movie that tonally and thematically, a movie that tonally and visually is completely different, and bears no tangible similarities to this movie, but does deal with the same themes, the concept of disillusionment, the concept of in a professional environment, the concept of being. Why are you laughing? You think you know what I'm going to say?
I think I know where you're going, but I want to hear you say it.
No, I don't think you. No, you don't. You probably. This is something you would never think I would get. Would never guess that I would say.
Okay.
So, although I am interested now to know what you thought I was going to say, but this next puzzle piece is something that puts a couple of main characters at the center of the story, who are grappling with their position and the potential of what their position could be in a corrupted system. It's all about sort of going along to get along, kind of grinning and bearing it, even though you know what you're doing every day is evil and part of a huge, horrible corporatocracy that's ruining life around the world, and the excuses that you tell yourself to continue to keep doing it because of the rewards that you're getting. And my puzzle piece is the movie Michael Clayton.
Oh, okay. That's good.
So, yeah. So I think, if you recall, the George Clooney, the titular character in Michael Clayton, was a fixer, I suppose, right? He was somebody who had this incredible talent for, as an investigator, to work with the law firm, with the firm that he was employed by, to make problems go away. And through the course of the movie, I don't want to ruin Michael Clayton for you or anything like that, but if you haven't seen it, I mean, it's been fucking 11 years, but still, he sees another member of a much higher ranking member of the firm start to break down and go through sort of a mental breakdown, and that, into his clear eyes, because he's not stricken in that way that the other character is, he starts to sort of second guess what it is he's doing, and again, I don't want to ruin Michael Clayton for you, but that, I think, an incredible movie, by the way. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. That's like a 5-star movie.
It really is a great movie. And it's a movie that people liked, but not enough people saw. It got a lot of rave reviews at the time. It's just, I don't know. People love Clooney, but they just did not show up for it.
I think it was maybe too subdued for the Clooney that people were expecting at that time.
Sure.
Wasn't he doing he was doing Syriana, and he had just done Ocean's 12.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, it was a very different role for him. And then also, let's not ever forget the fact that George Clooney only ever plays himself. Yeah. He only ever plays George Clooney. He has 0 characters. I would say maybe other than Burn After Reading. Would be
I was going to say maybe Coen Brothers, but that's about it.
Coen Brothers movies, yeah. He puts on a character for the Coen Brothers, but nobody else. What's your next piece, Dave?
No, I think Michael Clayton's a great one. And like we were just saying, a great movie. The reason I was laughing when you were first bringing it up is because of my next puzzle piece, which is a much lower brow version of, of what you were like starting to set up there.
Okay.
But it is Office Space. Which certainly this movie goes into a lot of different themes that are not present in Office Space, but the jumping off point does start with the mundanity and pointlessness of office life and just absolutely hating what you do, and I think it's such a great cult classic, and a movie that I think a lot of people who get into like first time filmmaking like this are probably big fans of Mike Judge and his kind of work.
Yeah, and it's funny because I might as well just spoil it right now. My next one was Idiocracy. So
I have that on my list too.
it can again, another Mike Judge movie, another sort of cult classic, and it's a movie. I would say, how we're wrong though. This movie is much more hopeful. Sorry to Bother You is much more hopeful about about people, about humanity.
Yeah.
I think that Office Space and Idiocracy, Silicon Valley today, go back as far as Beavis and Butthead. Mike Judge, his worldview is very nihilistic.
Yes, it is.
It is like, expect the very worst out of people, and even expecting the worst out of them, prepare to be disappointed because they'll be worse than that.
Right.
And expect the worst from yourself because you're awful too.
Yeah.
And the characters who are your stand-ins, the heroes of your stories, are even worse. They're terrible. So my wife made the point the other day or I guess it was a few months ago, whenever the end of Silicon Valley happened, when she was like, I just don't understand how we're supposed to root for Richard. He's terrible.
He's awful. He's the worst person.
He's one of the worst people in the world. And it's like no redeeming characteristics.
I think based on what you were just saying there, I think Office Space and Idiocracy are kind of where they're at when the events of Sorry to Bother You begin. And then there's a hopefulness of people actually coming together and wanting something better. that happens within Sorry to Bother You.
Okay, so for my next puzzle piece about this movie, I'm gonna go with a movie that it came out a few years ago, and it was pretty well received, but I feel like it just kind of disappeared or dissipated after that. Mm-hmm. It looked like it was going to be the beginning of sort of a movement in filmmaking. It had visually, it had similar sort of stark tones to it, and the characters spoke in very similar sort of clipped and uneven ways. The dialogue was very sort of rooted and real, while at the same time being a little ethereal. Like, these characters wouldn't be talking this way. This is clearly, raising Arizona levels of overwritten dialogue, but it also sort of hit you in the same way. And that movie is Dope. Do you remember Dope, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. Dope was really good.
So Dope, had a lot of the similar sort of interpersonal relationships, and I feel like a lot of the characters. Dope happened in L.A. or Southern California, the Valley, I think, and Sorry to Bother You, very famously now has happened in takes place in Oakland, California, and other than that huge geographic difference, I think you could draw a line between some of the characters in Dope and say that they're sort of grown up and this is still them in Sorry to Bother You.
Sure.
Obviously, Dope is far more rooted in reality. It's a drama that there's nothing crazy or insane that happens. There aren't any spoiler alerts, guys. Spoiler alerts for Sorry to Bother You, but there are no talking horses or like mutants or anything like that in Dope. But do you remember anything about that movie, Dave? And
it's been a long time. Yeah, no, I haven't seen it in a long time. I just remember really enjoying it at the time, and it had like a real cool feel to it. It just really it felt like very raw and very like I'm trying to think of the right word for it other than raw and cool, but very a very realistic look at like, those kind of characters.
So how about you? What's your next one?
So my next puzzle piece would be one that I think most genre fans would pick out immediately, especially with all of the anti-capitalist messages that we were discussing a little bit earlier. And that is John Carpenter's They Live, which is...
I've never seen that. I've never seen it.
It's a classic like sci-fi horror film, and basically it's about like these aliens, and like they're like the ruling class are basically aliens, and they've like coded all these secret messages into the world to get people to continue spending money and breeding and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's very much like one of the great sci-fi movies that deals with an issue like an issue that a lot of people are thinking about but isn't really represented that much in cinema, and that being capitalism, really, and looking at the problems with capitalism. And so that seems like something that would at least plant the seed, because I'm sure that Boots Riley would have grown up with weird, cool sci-fi movies in his head.
I think that's interesting because this is a black movie. The preponderance of the characters are portrayed by black actors, and in this movie, which, I mean, it's Oakland, that stands to reason in a lot of parts of Oakland, and I think it's interesting that anti-capitalist messaging in the last 20 to 25 years doesn't stand up that well in the black community. There are few groups who are more bought into the concept of capitalism and sort of material goods than urban African American community. I mean, They are as red-blooded Americans as you can be, but in their pursuit of wealth and their pursuit of, obviously they have huge institutional barriers preventing them from achieving it that their counterparts in white society don't have. But nonetheless, they definitely go after the carrot at the end of the stick with as much gusto, if not more. That's what almost all modern hip hop had been up until this like emo movement that happened in the last 3 or 4 years. All modern hip hop from, I would say, 1998, advent of Bad Boy, all the way up to 2016 or 2015 was explicitly materialistic.
Yeah.
Every single bit of the culture and the value of hip hop, with very rare exceptions for like the conscious hip hop or the head hip hop or whatever, or like knowledge hip hop. Like, other than that, those small sort of subgroups, it was just it's very materialistic. And I mean, that's a critique you can make about America writ large. And Americans
absolutely.
Writ large. But to see these characters who are, like I said, overwhelmingly, played by African Americans in the cast, kind of come to this larger, sort of more communal idea of what labor can be, of what working can be, of what leading, like, verdant lives and lives filled with meaning divorced from the pursuit of material goods, what that can be. Like, I thought that was really interesting, and you know, they don't lay it on. It's not laid on lightly. The anti-capitalist messaging in this movie. It's not done with nuance. It's done brilliantly. I think it's done very cool in a very cool way. But it's not done with a feather duster. It's done with a fucking jackhammer.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I think also it's it's cool to see it coming out of the hip hop community, because it's very much a reaction to all these years of hip hop being such a materialistic thing. And so I think it's like, it's the right, it's the right world to use to skewer capitalism, I think.
So my next one is is more specific to the second act. The entire second act of the movie occurs in a party, and that party is basically the part that you remember from the movie Eyes Wide Shut. And I thought that the entire second act party, where we meet Armie Hammer's character, who is a corrupt billionaire who's perpetrating horrible crimes against humanity in the pursuit of more capital. He holds this enormous soiree at his palatial estate. He's fucking hilarious. He's so good in this part. He should be this guy. Like, that's who he should be. Like, he's, you know what he is he's the character. He's the two characters from Social Network when they say the line, with the guy. I'm paraphrasing here, but I remember the character goes, "You think I'm afraid of him? I'm 6'4", 220 pounds, and there's two of me." That's who he is in this movie. He plays that character, and I love it. He plays it so well. We immediately meet him just doing the most insane line of cocaine that's ever been filmed. I mean, it's insane. So this depraved, very decadent, over the top, showy party, I couldn't help but be reminded of Eyes Wide Shut. Did you ever see Eyes Wide Shut, Dave?
A million years ago, but yes, I did. It's it's an interesting movie, that's for sure. You know what? Before I go on to my next puzzle piece, there's one thing I wanted to kind of double back on, because I forgot to mention it earlier, and that's when we were talking about Idiocracy. I think another thing that reminds me a lot of Idiocracy is the entertainment choices that these people in the future, you know, if you remember Ow My Balls from Idiocracy, that seems like it would be right there on the same channel as what was, do you remember what the show was they were watching?
You got hit in the motherfucking face.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't remember the exact name.
It was basically that, though. Yeah. Definitely people were watching some of the dumbest imaginable shit, which is, I think, you know, pretty good prediction for where things are going.
There was great details in this movie, man. Like the Cassius's car having above the windshield having and like, these are things that you only know about if you were poor, and if you spent like significant parts of your adulthood being like shit ass broke poor. The feeling, the anxiety that Cassius has of like being on the verge of being kicked out, a car that doesn't work, and not being able to get where he's going, having to like lie to get a job, like all those things that he has to go through. And I thought that it was perfectly distilled in the car that he drives, which is a Heap. And it has repo marking on the top right, and you wouldn't know what those numbers are unless your car has ever been repossessed, and you had to go get it back. Like, you have to know that, and that's such a mindful detail, you know, that kind of stuff to know. Oh, I guess Cassius has had his car repossessed in the recent past. That makes perfect sense. Like, and it's just detail like that they really kind of shoved into the movie, really helped make it.
That is absolutely that's one of the things I really like about the movie is the attention to detail. like I said, there's things about the movie I didn't love, but there's the things that I do like are just how many different things they try to get across in every frame. There's so much happening, and there's so much thought put into what they're trying to do to build this world, and it really works in a lot of different ways. And that's actually a really good setup for my next puzzle piece, which this one's possibly a bit of a stretch, but it has to do with the like the future and the future being portrayed on film. And I feel like it's called Worry Free. Is that right? The place where they live and work. Yeah. I feel like if you were to zoom in really far in the Blade Runner world and actually see how people are living, the majority of people are probably living in something resembling Worry Free. And I think that kind of mix of dystopian and utopian, although it's not really utopian, it's just people think it is at the same time. I think that is a very Blade Runner-esque concept.
You touch on the concept of dystopia, and my next puzzle piece would actually be a dystopian movie from about 11 years ago. The Clive Owen vehicle, Children of Men. Which was a much darker version of this movie, and it didn't have as much. Obviously, it wasn't as whimsical, and it didn't have. Obviously, the stakes were much higher in that movie because the human race was coming to an end, and we never really find out why. I think that it comes from a similar book where. The source material comes from a book where you actually never find out why it's happening. It's just, take it. This is what the setting of the movie is. These are the circumstances, and this is what's happening. And
that's
in much the
interesting.
same, and in much the same way, Sorry to Bother You does that. They say they drop you into a world that's not that different than the one that we're in right now, and they just basically say, hey, this is this is the world as it is, so come to grips with it. Yeah. What's funny is I think, and you have to double check me on this, Dave, but I think in Children of Men, the 20-year-old kid who is the youngest person alive, but who gets assassinated, and that's like a huge upheaval moment in that movie. They say he was born in the year 2018, which is
really
now. So that I don't know.
Well, that's prescient.
That's often.
That's but definitely between Children of Men and Blade Runner, I mean, definitely paints a pretty bleak future and a good starting point for the events of this movie to go towards. And I think they're also both very influential movies, so it makes a lot of sense. That's actually my last puzzle piece. Did you have any others?
I have one more.
Okay.
So you don't have any more?
No.
You're done?
Yep.
Okay. So my last puzzle piece is, again, you wouldn't have me on this show if I didn't break the rules every now and then and kind of twist up the format. And my next puzzle piece is actually a TV show. And similarly to, if you've been following some of the press coming out of this movie, Sorry to Bother You, Boots Riley has been making a point of saying that foreign, I guess, theaters, right? Theater companies, foreign theater companies around the world are not picking up this movie, despite it being a critical and a commercial success. It's been successful. It's not like, $1 billion movie or anything, but it's doing fine. And the reason he's saying that the reason that he's being given is that most foreign film, but most foreign markets say that they can't sell tickets to movies with mostly black people in them, which, I mean, I think he's being lied to a lot there. I think that, I mean, there's got to be some element of that, sure, but I think that I would guess that more likely at the core of that problem is that this movie is supremely nihilistic in a way that and sort of galvanizing in a way that I am shocked that people that the people in charge have allowed it to come out.
Right.
It's the kind of movie that you can picture the powers that be not wanting people to actually see. It is a direct action kind of movie. It is a movie that advocates for you. It dares you to get up and go do something. And about the conditions of the world, about the political oppression, about your own oppression in your country, about whatever it is that lights up your that lights up your light of direct action. In that way, there was a TV show that I was shocked was on primetime for I think 10 years. That was one of the most nihilistic shows I'd ever seen. The overwhelming message behind every episode, until maybe the last couple seasons when it got very schmaltzy. But the first, I would say 6 or 7 seasons was just dark hopelessness, meaninglessness. Why are you allowing your life to be like this? Your life is just like these people's. These people's life is terrible. Nothing matters. The Office. The Office was a TV show that I, upon rewatching it recently, am shocked that they let it on the air. I could not believe that they let that show on the air. And I think a lot of people remember the goofy, silly, funny parts of The Office, but they don't remember the truly abject horror parts of The Office that were basically telling you that everything you're participating in the society is a joke and ridiculous.
It's all just a big joke. It's everything.
An artifice and a construct. It's all bullshit. and really showing you, like, I'll never forget, there's a part in The Office where Pam, the one of the main characters, Pam, is put in charge of, I guess, office administration. And part of her job is that she has to find ways to cut costs. And one of the things that she cuts is the cleaning crew on certain days. And so the office becomes trashy, and they try to make a chore wheel game out of it. And these people are so, they're just the typical, like, dissociated, unengaged office workers, and they're not into a game that's a chore wheel. So she has to spice it up with fun things. And eventually the game becomes only fun things. And they forget to clean up the office. And they close out the opening scene, and it's them, like, basically cheering and chanting in the conference room. And the camera kind of zooms out of the conference room out into, like, the office shared area that is just covered in trash, and, like, a rat runs through it. It's just like, it's such, like, abject horror, and you realize you're too busy laughing to think about, like, how horrible it all is. And in that way, this movie, sorry to bother you, absolutely reminded me of The Office.
That's great.
Can't believe that upon rewatching The Office, I cannot believe that it was allowed to be on television for so long. And I can't believe that we're so inured, that we're so, like, we're so anesthetized that none of us, like, that us watching it didn't make us get up collectively as people and say, what the fuck are we doing? Everything is broken. Everything is bullshit.
Well,
start like taking to the streets and rioting.
Maybe in a little small way that has helped lead to the progressive movement of the last couple of years.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to the finished puzzle. So let me run down the list of all the puzzle pieces we just discussed. And that includes Charlie Kaufman films, which also includes Michel Gondry and Spike Jonze. Also, They Live, Michael Clayton, Office Space, Idiocracy, Eyes Wide Shut, Dope, Children of Men, Blade Runner, and The Office. So overall, how did you like this movie?
I love this movie. And I know that you're going to go in a different direction, or more of a down the middle of the road. It's just, I love the message of the movie. Mm-hmm. I love the novelty of the execution. I'm not trying to say that this is like this guy, as far as I know, he's a first time filmmaker. He's not.
Yes.
I mean, he's not. You can clearly tell that what he lacks in experience, he makes up with sort of having that unteachable auteur eye, where he knows what it is that he wants to see. And I mean, I think some shots and there are some parts that drag. There are some shots that didn't hit the mark, and then there's also some writing bits that didn't make sense. The whole thing where the girlfriend sort of like the moments of infidelity that never get revisited during the course of the movie. That's a little weird. But like, I mean, yeah, sure. If you want to nitpick, you can nitpick this movie. But I thought this was a great movie with a great message and one that people should be paying more attention to. And, you know, if there's anything that we've seen recently this year, like I said before, with the wildcat strikes across the country, you know, you're not allowed to strike, right? I mean, like, you specifically can't because you work at your family business. It would be a disaster.
I'd get yelled at.
You get yelled at. But like in the overwhelming majority of the states in the union, you have what's called a right to work, which is basically a right not to collectively bargain, and that means that if corporations, especially larger corporations, even sniff the idea of a union being passed around, they'll just shut the location down and then open it back up a year later with a completely, you know, new group of workers, and they'll be well within their rights because the corporations have worked so hard to ensure that these right to work laws are the laws of the land. So when there's the occasion that work stoppages can happen, they work. They are absolutely effective. When there's not some legislation preventing them, or when it's public sector employees who have maybe a little bit better standing to be able to execute them, you know, like the teachers in West Virginia, the teachers in Kansas, there's nothing more effective, honestly, than a strike. A strike will bring the company to its knees,
right?
And we see it in this movie, and it's such a huge part of our American history. The reason that we got weekends was through strikes. Before that, weekends didn't exist. They were just 2 more work days.
Yeah.
The reason that we got overtime, the reason that we got so many of these things and yeah, I know that unions are overwhelmingly corrupt, but you know, they're corrupt on such small scales compared to the amount of value that's extracted from your hour of labor versus what you actually get paid during that hour. Yeah. And I loved the message of this movie in that respect because it's not being talked about outside of progressive political circles these days. It hasn't been for decades. Since the Reagan era, this has been a country where it's grind your ass off, and that's like the virtue. Yo, I'm on the grind, like grinding yourself into a fucking nub. That's the thing that gets rewarded. I'm on the grind. You know what's like left after a grind? Just like a fucking shitty, I don't know, a jizz stain or something. Eric Nies from The Grind. Remember him?
Kind of.
Yo, what's up? It's Eric from The Grind.
So, you know,
I just lost all of our listeners under 35. I just lost them.
The funny thing, and the reason why it's hard for me to review this movie is because I agree with like everything you were just saying. All the positives about this movie, I absolutely agree with. I just kind of wish that Boots Riley had made a couple of features before he made this movie, because I just find it hard to ignore how difficult it is for all those solid ideas and all the good things. I don't feel like they combine into a movie that really.
Do you feel like the movie was
works.
maybe like half baked, like
yes.
It was like wasn't fully realized?
It's clearly a first time filmmaker's film. Some of the worst parts of it, I've said this before, but I felt like something you would see in like a 48-hour film or something, you know?
Yeah.
Just like kind of corny-ish first time filmmaker thing. Things that needed some more time to really kind of drive it home. But that being said, I definitely liked the movie. I did not dislike it. I definitely liked it, and I appreciate it for the ideas that it's trying to put forward. I appreciate it for attempting a lot of difficult things to really put in film. I mean, it's not an easy movie to make, especially for a first-time filmmaker. And so I definitely don't want to come down too hard on it because I definitely did enjoy it. I just didn't love it as much as I know you did and a lot of other critics seem to.
I will say that if I was disappointed in anything of the movie that I think that it didn't deliver on was the trailer promised a movie that had a much more that had a much more realized world. That was it promised a lot more visually interesting and appealing pieces to it. But a lot of that Michel Gondry stuff they used in the trailer, and there wasn't really much, like a lot of the practical effects, a lot of the, the thing that caught me with the trailer was the desk dropping, where he would make a phone call, where the main character Cassius would make a phone call and drop into the reality or the existence of the family that he's calling or the person that he's calling.
Right.
Which I found to be really interesting. It's such a cool idea and a fun.
That
way
was
to
a
do it.
really cool idea. Very Michel Gondry.
I'm in. Yeah, and I'm down for a whole movie like that. Yeah. But the 5-minute trailer was pretty much all of those things that were in the movie. Outside of that, it was a pretty straightforward set. The set design was compelling, but it wasn't like genre bending or whatever. It wasn't crazy like that. There were some interesting pieces, interesting parts, surrealism, the magical realism and all that. But again, if you saw the trailer, you pretty much saw all those parts.
Right. It also, I felt, was lacking in the comedy, which it doesn't necessarily need. It's definitely trying to do bigger things than comedy, but the trailer seemed to make it out to be a comedy, and I didn't think it was really that funny overall, Well,
I'll tell you one thing. It's funny you say that because I think one of the best. I think that this wasn't a coming out party, but maybe more people now know about Lakeith Stanfield, and that's awesome because he's.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He's a national treasure. He's incredible.
Yep.
But what I did find funny was that the part that he's best known for, I think, in Atlanta, is Darius. And you compare Darius, that character who he plays, who is the sort of quintessential best friend who gets the occasional bottle episode here and there where we get to learn more about him, versus Cassius. Darius is filled with unspoken context. Every time he walks into the room, there are all these stories behind him that trail behind him, and everything he says is informed by all this, the magic of that character of like. He is the oldest soul of all of those characters, and also he's sort of kind of at the same time a neophyte, like a baby living in a world of people who are much less innocent than he is, and he has these stories and he has this rich history. He's from Nigeria. He has like this whole like a story about everything, and his actions are. Everything that he does is sort of like an enigma, and he's so deep and crunchy. And yeah, that's the brilliance of Donald Glover, right? Who creates that character and brings it to life, and then Lakeith Stanfield acts it out. And then Cassius was very much sort of like tabula rasa. He was just like an empty. He was a stand-in for us.
Right.
He was an everyman. He didn't bring a lot of context. He had some funny quips, and you realize that he's kind of an original thinker, but he's mostly just a stand-in leading man in this movie. There's nothing apart from his salesmanship skills, which if you ever take like screenwriting 101, they'll always tell you like your main character always has to be good at their job. Like that's the one thing you have to do to make it's weird. It's a dumb like old school thing, but your main character has to be good at their job. And in this case, Lakeith Stanfield is, he excels at the job that he's doing. But other than that, he's really just an everyman. And he put in a situation where you're supposed to be able to take yourself, whether you're Puerto Rican, whether you're Jewish, whether you're white, whatever, and put yourself inside of him and be like, what would I do in that situation? And for that, these two, that shows a difference, right? Because what you're talking about, this first-time writer, this first-time filmmaker, Boots Riley, who definitely does not yet have the breadth of experience that a Donald Glover has. And also Donald Glover's just goddamn talented as the world. But I think that you see like the same actor, the same incredibly talented actor play that out differently where he's like, okay, I'm not being given much with this character. My job is sort of to react to the world around me.
Yeah.
And sorry to bother you. As opposed to, I'd say overwhelmingly in Atlanta, people are forced to react to Darius.
Right.
Darius is the agent, the agent of change in a scene. He's the guy that comes in and shoots a dog, shoots a target practice picture of a dog and starts a fight because the redneck is shooting a black guy. So, I mean, I thought that sort of distills what you're talking about a little bit.
Just a quick aside, and then we'll wrap this discussion up. But you just talking about that screenwriting thing about always make sure your main character is good at their job. That actually just made me enjoy my favorite movie of all time, Adaptation, even a little bit more because of how bad Charlie Kaufman is at writing. And he wrote
is that where it came from? Is that where I got that from?
No, that's not a line
Brian
in there.
Cox's character who said that?
No, that's not one of his bits of advice. Although he does say, "And God help you if you use voiceover," during voiceover. Yeah.
and then not to go down an adaptation hole, but then that's the last moment of a voiceover for the rest of the movie, right?
The movie, until the very end.
There's no more.
Yeah. Amazing, so fucking amazing. All right, well,
I will say, you know what's funny though? How about this adaptation as a puzzle, one final puzzle piece, and here's why. Adaptation was probably the first meta conscious, aware of itself movie to come out, where it knew what it was doing and it pulled that mid-second act shift where it turned into a different movie, and it knew that it was doing it, and it basically said it out loud. How about this? Sorry to bother you. The title is meta and aware of itself. It is choosing to bother you because what it's doing is it's trying to break up your complacency in the life that you lead in the capitalist society that you exist in. It's absolutely not sorry to bother you, and that's the hidden meta meaning of the title.
I love it. That's that Charlie Kaufman inspiration right there. Well, right on. Let's wrap this up. Q, you got any plugs you want to do?
Oh no, I got nothing.
Nothing.
I'm involved in nothing. I'm accomplishing nothing.
Well, listen to Bird Road, where you'll get the rest of this conversation, which bits and pieces may have been cut out of the piecing it together.
You better fucking not. Oh, I'll kill you. And if you think I'm going to give you the final edit.
I have total
I'm going to give you
power.
the final edit, and it goes up. You know what? I don't even have to give it to you. I already own the keys to your feed. I can put it up however I fucking want.
We'll see what happens.
Fuck around and find out.
Are you addicted to classic TV shows? Did you spend the 80s sitting in front of the boob tube? Then join us for TV Tangents, where we examine television of the 20th century with barely any contemporary context. Visit Shout Engine, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts, and look for TV Tangents.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Piecing It Together. That was also an episode of Bird Road. You should be listening to Bird Road too, by the way. But also another thing I probably should have mentioned at the top of the show, but I'll mention it now. If this episode's sounding a little bit different, there's actually multiple reasons for that. First of all, I have a new studio set up. I moved everything away from my studio room where I compose my music and all that stuff. I moved all my podcasting stuff out to a different room, so I'm still getting it all put together and everything. So far, so good, though. It's going to be a really awesome space for doing these podcasts, making things a little more comfortable so it's not so cramped. I mean, I have a lot of instruments and musical equipment and stuff like that, so it's a mess in there. And so trying to navigate doing a podcast in the same room where I do all my music, it's a bit much. So now I've got like a separate little podcasting studio. But along with that, I also had to have Q do the editing because we had a power surge here that fried my, luckily just my surge protector, not the computer itself. So I'm on a laptop, and it's the only way I can finish editing this. But for editing the main conversation, I let Q do it. Plus, it was going to be on Bird Road anyways, so I let him have editing power, as you heard. But yeah, so between those two things, it's gonna probably sound a little different this episode, but we'll get back to normal with the next one, and it should sound good too today, I'm sure. So anyway, with that, if you enjoyed the show, please rate and review us. We'd love 5 stars on iTunes. We'd also love some feedback. You can email me directly, bydavidrosen@gmail.com, or you can tweet at us at PiecingPod, and you can join our Facebook group, Piecing It Together, a movie discussion group, where we have all kinds of conversations about new movies, about upcoming movies, about the shows that we do here on this podcast, about the puzzle pieces, and about all that kind of stuff. Join the group, and we'd love to talk to you. And with that, I want to remind you guys that my new virtual reality music video, Palindrome 360, is out now, and it's on YouTube, Samsung VR, Veer TV, and Vimeo. And so far, it is doing amazingly. It was actually the featured video of the week last week on Samsung VR and YouTube and Veer, which is amazing. And it's getting so many views and a lot of great feedback, and so we're super excited about that. The album that song comes from, A Different Kind of Dream, is available now on iTunes. And I got another music video coming next month. We'll talk about that soon. And aside from that, I guess I'll leave you with some music. I'm not sure what I'm going to play this time. Maybe I'll play some kind of hip-hop track I've made in the past. I don't know. I'm going to go take a listen to some of my music, and I'm going to insert one right after I finish talking and hit stop. I'm going to hit stop now.
and all points west.